here we are, episode 7. Pretty crazy. We're getting further into the year. So today we wanted to talk through becoming good fruit and basically growing as a man or a woman, because we wanted to make sure that we're helping all of God's creatures. So we wanted to just talk about character, how it's built, and it's not built in one defining moment, but it's built through thousands of just ordinary choices. So today we're going to explore things like humility, discipline, integrity, intentional living, because who you're becoming eventually shows up in everything that you produce. We've talked about that. We've talked about pruning. We've talked about relationships, a lot of different things, building a strong foundation. And today we're going to focus on what's underneath all of those, which is character. So I'll start it off with my greatest pals in the world, Matthew and Stephen.
At least I'm even now.
Yeah.
See, there you go. What does character actually mean?
That's a great question, how to define character. I think it goes beyond what you think. It's the manifestation of your thoughts into action at the most difficult times.
Mm-hmm.
I had someone say to me once, if you ever want to look at the true character of someone, just watch them when things are going not well for them. That's their character.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to put on the show, right? When everything's amazing.
Yeah.
But the second things are not going your way, that's, I think, when true character comes out, right? It kind of digs deep into the essence of who you really are.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys ever used the color code system? Have you ever heard of that? It's an assessment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Red, yellow, blue, and white. And
it's like a disc thing, right? Like almost like a disc
correct.
assessment. Yeah.
Yeah. And you go through and you answer, I'm going to say 30, 35 questions, but you're supposed to answer them as if you were still a younger person. So 10, 11, 12 years old, because it's very, very interesting. So I went through. Yellow is you just like to have fun. You're energetic, you're outgoing, life of the party. Those are kind of the things that make up that. Blue is you're emotional. Red is you're just like, I want to get from point A to point B. I got to go. And white is I'm a chill person. I'm just kind of easygoing. I'm quiet and laid back. I took that test at a company and I was like 51% yellow, 43% emotional, and like 7% red. And I had no chill, like no white. And I just thought it was interesting because it ties into what you said when somebody gets stressed or they're there's two sides of your character, really. So you have a primary and a secondary color. Primary is kind of who I am when everything's going okay. Mm-hmm. The secondary color is what comes out when things get really stressed. I'm a very emotional person. So when I get really stressed, I get really emotional and I react. So I just think it's interesting from a character perspective that you say that. That is very, very true. And I don't know what your guys is like. I can get really stressed and things will be okay depending on what it is, or I can get really stressed and just lose my mind and yell or get upset.
I feel like since I've had kids, I do more yelling when I get angry. But I mean, typically, I think I'm very similar to you. Like I get quiet if I get angry or get upset.
Yeah,
I just have to be left alone for a bit.
What about you?
Yeah, you ever get angry, Matthew? I can't see you getting angry.
Yeah, I probably err more on the yelling side.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't see that about you.
Yeah.
I see you just being a loving, gentle person.
Yeah, I hide it well, right?
Except that special needs basketball players. We know you yell at them.
Yeah, exactly. And but yeah, no, I mean, I think with like stress, I think a lot of times my first reaction will just be like, okay, what's going on here? Why? Who caused this? And but yeah, I mean, I try to get better at it. It's not a great reaction, but yeah.
Isn't that a profound and distinctly human reaction, though? Who caused this? Who can I blame for what's going on over here? Surely it wasn't me.
Right.
Yeah, isn't that so uniquely human?
Yeah, that is funny. But okay, is maybe I'm mixing up my phrases, but isn't there a phrase like character is what you do when no one's looking? Maybe I'm mixing up.
It's integrity, but it could be character.
Yeah. So that was.
I think they align very much.
That's really a great point, though. Like, how would you define? Like, what would the distinctions be between integrity and character versus the overlap?
I mean, if I think about character, I think about traits that, like, integrity is I'm just going to do something because I know it's...
So it's action-oriented?
It's action-oriented, maybe?
Whereas character
is integrity a character trait? Is integrity a character trait?
I think it is, yes.
Yeah. Or maybe character is a bigger umbrella?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because, like, when we think about integrity, the whole Karpos Life, you guys know that framework I put together. Integrity is kind of like...
Weaves through.
It weaves through all of it. Because you can have character traits. Like, we all have different character traits. So I think, and I think you can develop different character traits over time. Maybe it's because of things you go through or realizations that you have. But if I think about it, I think I like it better saying that integrity is a character trait.
Yeah.
Or even if you just think about the word character, right? Character is someone in a movie or in a film, right? The character defines the fullness of that thing, of which integrity can be a piece of that character. So, yeah.
And character could be, like virtues. I'm trustworthy. I'm honest.
Responsible.
All
those things.
Hardworking. These are all the character traits that make up who I am or what I do. So do most people intentionally build character, or do they simply hope it happens?
Yeah, I was just about to ask you the question of do you think people are born with character traits, and can they be added to as you go through life?
I think definitely. I mean, because I look at my kids, all 6 of them are completely different in certain ways. And the 2 younger boys, great kids, but they're way more just wild and rambunctious and not bad kids. They're just different. They just have completely different character traits than, say, our youngest daughter, who is very quiet and gentle and easygoing and things like that. So I definitely think there are things we're just born with. And
so what's the difference between a character and personality? Seeing as we're getting all the definitions out of the way early on.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know. What do you...
Yeah, I think of character as like in hard times. That's kind of how I define, like, character comes out in hard times versus, personality, similar, but like, I guess that's how I've always viewed it is when things are really difficult, which maybe like your definition, like, what are you made of and what do you do? Do you immediately go towards, well, let me lie still and cheat my way out of this? Or, all right, let me just, work harder or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
When everything's great, it's easy to say, oh, yeah, I've got great character, great personality, all this stuff. When problems arise, those things, the true you comes out.
Yeah, and I think personality can be you're outgoing, you're a social butterfly, or you're kind of a recluse, you like to be alone, things like that. But those aren't necessarily character traits. I mean, I guess they could be kind of still considered
and they're not mutually exclusive to some of the other things we've just spoken about too, right? You can be both funny and outgoing, but also have, deep decay from a character standpoint. Or conversely, you can have all those things and be of high virtue or of high integrity.
Yep. Well, I think that's one of the reasons that it can be developed. I think people are born a certain way.
Personality, maybe personality is the more of the thing that, hey, this is who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
the character is I agree with you, right? That's the thing that we are expected to form and shape and be intentional about doing so over time, right?
Yep.
But all too often people conflate, I think, character and personality. And they're constantly trying to change their personality and will be very intentional about it too, but not so much so on the character side.
Right.
And one fully informs the other.
Right. I mean, because if you think about it, just take me for an example. For years, I thought I should be more stoic. I should be more quiet. I should, just this is the kind of, we were interviewing somebody for a job one time, and my boss asked some questions, and then I asked some questions, and she goes, "Oh, okay, you're the business side, you're the touchy-feely," talking about me, because I asked, some questions about character, like what would you do in this particular instance with dealing with somebody, and I thought, okay, I need to be more business-like, I need to maximize the kind of character traits and personality that I have.
The gifts that you have.
Yeah. I think those two can kind of blend together. But I think from, what we're talking about here, I think a lot of times character is just developed by the circumstances that you're in and the people you surround yourself with and the habits you allow yourself to associate, to develop and all of that.
What about principles and things of that nature, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like those are things that certainly feed character, right?
Yep, absolutely. Well, I put some things, our habits, our choices, our response to pressure, which we talked about, the way we treat people, the way we lead. Over time, those things are, they become who we are. And you could make a decision to, like you said, cut corners or cheat or lie your way out of a situation, or just be like, no, I'm just going to face it. That to me is a character trait, I'm just facing this now. I'm just going to go through it, whatever it is.
Right.
So what experiences have shaped you guys and your character?
I think getting married, I mean, we could probably all say the same thing. Marriage is a lot of wonderful things. One thing it is it's a big old mirror. Mm-hmm. It's a big old mirror. I remember when we first got married, I was like, wow, this is interesting. Like, I have someone kind of showing me where the rough edges are.
Yeah.
Right. And things that I was otherwise potentially blind to.
Right.
Or other people had maybe tried to tell me, but maybe not such a eloquent or loving way. And so as we do, we just kind of brush those things off. But I think situationally, marriage is maybe the biggest character former. I think having kids second, because you learn a lot about yourself as well. Like, you start seeing your kids do and say the things that you do and say. And you're like, ooh, just another big old mirror. I mean, for me, I can't think of any particular one situation that has maybe had, big impact on me. Although I feel like, coming back to one of your first questions about intentionality, I think that is the thing that, unfortunately, most people are not very intentional about their character and the character that they want to shape. And I don't know if that's because they don't have that target in mind of, hey, that's the kind of character I want to pursue or emulate. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we have some really good examples in our lives generally in terms of who are the people we want to try and emulate from a character standpoint. Mm-hmm. But I think it's less of that, and I think it's more of people just kind of bumbling through life, right? Thinking, oh yeah, I'll absorb the right things and I'll, repel the wrong things as those moments arise. And I think that's the one thing where, if I could impart something to my boys, it's be so intentional about the kind of character that you want to form and frame in your life.
Yeah.
And this also goes back to there's so much biblical evidence for this as well, right? About, let your mind be renewed by the transformation of your mind, right? Like there is a whole neuroplasticity, lesson in there about, hey, the kind of person that you want to be, you should be highly thoughtful and intentional about that, and let that sit in you, digest in you, and work out the moments to kind of practice that. I think that's where that's the kind of thing that builds character.
Agreed.
When you sit in it and you are highly focused on it and you're committed to it.
Yeah.
And you know exactly what it is that you want to do and what you don't want to do. And you will not compromise with one or the other.
Yep.
I think that's character.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting too, thinking about that. Jim Rohn had a really good saying, and he said, if you don't make plans for your life, somebody will make plans. And guess what they'll plan for you? Not much. So making plans means I'm assessing my character, I'm assessing my goals, my strategies, where am I going, what am I doing? Because otherwise you're just kind of like Forrest Gump, just blowing along like on a breeze, making this decision or that decision, not really knowing where you're going to end up or what you're going to be doing and all of that. So I definitely agree. You have anything to add to?
No, I mean, I think the big things that he said, I would agree with. As I was sitting here thinking, it's also just all these, it's all the little moments of life, right?
Yeah.
All these little things that just over life, when we have decisions to make. I was kind of sitting here thinking in my head, is like, in that kind of another definition of, a definition of sin would be basically a lapse in character, right? Especially if, we've decided we want to live this way of life, and then when we fail, it's because we failed to live up to the character that we wanted to have. So yeah, I was thinking about that.
Yeah. I mean, every decision we're making is shaping us.
That's so true. So I listened to something this week I thought was so fascinating. So you mentioned a couple episodes ago about neuroplasticity. We were talking about meditation and things of that nature, and how you can truly, like, if you meditate on something, you can truly shape your mind. You can start rewiring your mind, because your mind is always looking for new pathways to develop, right? And the more you feed a certain habit, or the more you feed a certain thought process, the stronger those pathways are gonna be built.
Yes.
Right? Just basic neuroplasticity. I was listening to something earlier this week, which I thought was fascinating. And this goes along to what you were just saying, Matthew, about it's all the moments in life, right, that help form and shape their character. And what this guy was saying, he was a neuroscientist, and what he was saying is, look, if you're just sitting at home, like let's say, for example, you're trying to stop smoking, right? You currently have in your mind an addiction, and that addiction is formed based on these like really strong neural pathways that have kind of, you've trained your mind to, like, every time I have a craving, I've got to go have a cigarette, right? So that pathway is super strong. That is essentially who you are as a person. But if you want to change that, instead of just sitting there, all day, the way to reframe your mind, instead of just sitting there all day and saying, okay, I'm not going to smoke, I don't want to smoke, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to drink, whatever it is that you're dealing with or you're trying to retrain, that in itself does very little to rebuild the new neural pathways. There is this thing called I think they called it a pathway window, which says that there are certain moments in your life and in your day where that window becomes an exponentially greater pathway building opportunity. So, for example, if just going back to the smoking example, right? If you were a smoker, the moment when you start having that addiction, that's the window to, sorry, not addiction, that craving, that's the window to retrain your mind. Say, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to turn away from this. Oh, then your mind now learns, okay, well, when this craving occurs, Stephen chooses this path, not this path. So that's the window. And so to your point, right, I just find that super fascinating, right? Because that's truly what character is when your body is telling you, or your mind is telling you, you've got to go this way, that you are against everything in you saying, no, I'm going to make a different decision.
Yeah.
That's ultimately retraining who you are and what your mind is. But it only works in that moment when it's a really difficult decision. And so to your point, right, we all encounter many, many of those opportunities, little moments every single day where hey, it's very easy for me to go this way, but I shouldn't. That's the harder way to go, and I'm going to push myself that way.
Yeah.
The more we do that, it's like being in the gym. The more we do that, that's what really frames those neural pathways, and that ultimately starts forming who you are, the decisions that you make, the character that you have. I just thought that was super fascinating.
It's interesting. It's like you don't become someone overnight. You become someone one decision at a time.
In the hardest moments.
In the hardest moments, yeah.
Right.
I read a really good book called Rewire.
Okay.
Which is basically what you're talking about, where, habits are formed and you can think about a river and your brain just creates like this river. And then that's the easiest thing to do. So when this happens, my brain is used or wired to do this. So it's this space that you have where if I want to change that, a craving comes or something happens, I've got to divert it.
Yeah. And the next thing you know, that becomes its own river.
Yeah.
Right. And now your mind knows, oh, well, I don't have to take this other path anymore.
Right.
I want to naturally now take this path.
So does pressure build character or does it reveal it?
Both.
Yeah. Yeah, both.
Yeah.
And maybe depending on how you handle it as well, right? Well, I think there's an opportunity for it to be able to build you. But
That's
kind of what we were
key.
just talking about. But if your brain chooses that pathway of least resistance, then, like we're talking about, then you're just going to overreact or, who did this? Not me. Who can I blame? And then you've lost that opportunity.
But bad character is character too. And so every moment builds character. What kind of character does it build?
Yeah.
Right? But it always reveals character.
Yeah, I think pressure reveals
Right.
your character. And I think then to your point, there's these opportunities to let it build something positive.
No, I like that. That's actually because no one wants to view themselves as having bad character. But that's a really
Character's character.
right. That's a really good comment of like, it's not like, oh, I have my character wasn't what I want it to be. No, you have bad character, and that's what you have.
Yeah. It's why I think reflection, and we've talked about this many a time, it's so important to kind of look back and better understand yourself. Because I don't know about you guys, there's been times in my life where I'm like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. Like, I don't know why I'm reacting this way. Like, why did this bother me so much or whatever? Well, to just go along and say, I don't know, you're just going to end up in that situation again. But if you can take a step back, maybe analyze yourself, see what's going on. I've had a lot of things happen to me in my life. And at certain stages or points, I said, well, I did this because of that. As I got older and I reviewed or assessed myself more, I'm like, I don't know that that's the reason I did that. I think it's actually this. And I need to change that character trait about myself or work on it or not put myself in that situation. So I don't know. How do you guys respond in your life when something doesn't go the way you want it to? I bet you throw tantrums, don't you?
Yeah, I know young Matthew for sure was like, why is this happening? Right?
Yeah.
Like, this is not part of the plan. This is, I work hard, do the right thing. Like, why is this negative thing happening?
Mm-hmm.
I think as I've gotten older and maybe went through more things, I think there's a lot of power in after going through the situation. I think in business it's like the debrief, right? Like after you've closed a deal, after you lost a deal, whatever it is, you go through and say, what did we do good? What did we do wrong? What could have been changed? And I think I wish I'd have known that a long time ago, just from a personal perspective of like, okay, once you go through a situation, good or bad, depending on how you handle it, it doesn't matter. Go debrief, within your own mind, maybe with other people, as to, okay, how did I get here? What could I have done differently to have changed that reaction, changed that, what caused me to get there.
We call them root cause analysis in our world. Let me just look and see what caused this, and is there something that I can do different?
Yeah.
And then what I always like to do, I don't know how you handle those, but we have kind of like short, medium, and long. This is what we're going to do right now. This is what we're going to do in the next 2 months. This is what we're going to do in the next year. But I think that's a really good idea and a good plan. Just take a step back and assess.
Because really the key in all this is just to use all these moments to grow, and to get better, right? So, we use the analogy of fruit. I mean, when you plant a tree, it can take 4 or 5 years. Not every year is a banner year, but when you take care of it, fertilize it right way, you get an abundant crop. So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You're going to have times when you have a lot of fruit, and there's going to be times where you're like, oh man, I don't see that fruit, but think through why,
right?
And what can I do to fix that?
Yeah. Well, I think you said something earlier too, though, that is really interesting, that you can have bad characteristics, character traits, and you can have good. And I think the emphasis of what we're talking about here is to focus on those good characteristics and those good character traits, because I think that's where you can put the effort into change and grow. Because I think being able to assess yourself, I think that's the key, is being able to do kind of like that root cause analysis. Because anybody can display good character when life is easy. I think your real character comes out, as we talked about, when things are hard. And so I think being able to focus on what are those, well, I'll ask you something here then. What does emotional maturity look like? Or you?
For me, emotional maturity is quite often keeping emotion out of things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, you look at, just coming back to your question about how do you handle things that, maybe don't go your way.
Mm-hmm.
I have this thing with me where I ask myself a question when things don't go my way. Will this matter in 5 years? And 99% of things, the answer is no.
Yeah.
And so I'm just not going to get emotionally involved in this, right? It's not a big deal, right? But to your point, we do, RCAs, root cause analysis as well. And that's something that I also think can be in psychology, in kind of the human experiment. Of course, in technology, that's a very, very useful thing. But I think in life, that can be a good thing and that can be a bad thing. Because not everything has a root cause in life, right? Mm-hmm. Why did so-and-so get sick?
Time and chance happen to all.
Just time and chance, right? And so at that point, you really can't go back and try and pinpoint what was the moment that this thing happened. And I think that's what we try and do as people, is like, how did I get here? Let me try and solve especially as men, right? Let me try and solve this thing here. And that in itself can be a problem, right? I think emotional intelligence or emotional maturity can also be summed up as acceptance. Mm-hmm. This is happening. I have two choices. I can kick and scream and I can throw a tantrum. I can try to figure this out and I can play the victim and I can blame everyone else, or I can just accept it. This is it. And now I've got to figure out how to live this way. Or now I've got to figure out how to handle this. Or now I've got to figure out what the new normal looks like.
Right.
We've all seen it in our careers, right? So-and-so gets promoted and so-and-so doesn't. Or so-and-so gets a new boss and so-and-so isn't happy. And I've seen that now for the last, decade. And it's amazing to me how mature people, high-performing people will respond when things don't go their way. I mean, this happened at, my job just recently, where someone got a new boss and kicked up a stink. And I think to myself, what good does that do? Yeah. Right? Just accept it, do the best job. Yeah, you were overlooked, but no amount of, doing what you're doing is going to change it. In fact, all you're doing now is you're just laying a path for self-destruction.
Yep.
Just accept it. Just accept it, move on. And so for me, and I know that's a lot easier said than done, but emotional maturity for me is coming to peace with a situation as difficult as it might be.
Yeah. And I can tell you, being a very emotional person, like I react to things very emotionally sometimes. I've learned I try to apply. There's a psalm that says, cry about it for 24 hours and then move on. And I've tried to do that. I will stew on things for quite some time and try to figure out, well, why did this happen? Or what was their intention? Did they really mean that? All these different things. And I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm much faster at getting past those things. And I realize, hey, take the emotion out. Let's just focus on the facts here.
Yeah.
And what do we need to do to get through this, move on, all of those kind of things.
There's that saying, you control the controllables, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times whenever people get, and if I look back on my life, okay, it's when you start focusing too much on things that are out of your control and focusing on that, and then spiraling begins to happen out of there.
Yep.
And so, like I said, just if you're able just to focus on the things that you can control, leave everything else out. You're talking about what emotional maturity is. Maybe the ability to do that is, just stay focused on what is in your realm that you can control and leave everything else out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And have the wisdom to know the difference between the two.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Right? Because going back to just the situation that I mentioned at my work, right? There's a foolishness in belief that, if I now go and do X, Y, and Z, that maybe the decision will change.
Right.
No, it won't. Other decisions will come from that, but the decision will not change. So I think having the wisdom to know what you can control versus what you can't control, and then focusing on the things that you can control, I think that's very important.
Yeah. I recently had a situation where I was like telling Victoria about it and everything. Like, I have done everything I possibly can to make this happen. We were talking about that deal earlier. I'm like, you know what? Other people have to step up. I've done what I can. I can't force anybody to do anything. So they just need to make those decisions. And I need to be at peace with it. And that's what I prayed about is, hey, let me just be at peace with whatever happens. That's all I can do. So that's interesting that you said that, because I do think that's emotional maturity, is being able to just take a step back and be like, I don't have to control all of this.
Right.
I just need to let that go. So thinking about character traits and everything, then what does humility look like?
There's so many definitions of humility.
Mm-hmm.
My CEO, he speaks a lot about this subject, and he says humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking more of others.
Mm-hmm.
And I always like that, right? I think humility isn't kind of beating yourself down into the ground and saying, oh, I'm just this worthless piece of rubbish. It's like, I'm awesome, but everyone else is more awesome, right? Or at least just as awesome. And I think that is a good simplistic version of humility. But I think the book of Philippians sums it up perfectly, right? Philippians 2, where it talks about look out not only for your own interests, but the interests of others. Mm-hmm. I think that is truly humility in action, right? Where you can walk around and say you're humble, but I think it's those people who are actively serving and putting other people before themselves in their actions, in their resources, in their thoughts. I think that's truly humility, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're lifting people up and you're giving of yourself in service of other people.
Right.
And I think that's the ultimate. I mean, the book of Philippians 2 that now continues, and it talks about the sacrifice of Christ as being the ultimate act of humility. And that's essentially what he did, was he emptied himself for others.
Right.
He gave the ultimate sacrifice for someone else. I don't think you can truly be a person of a hubris nature and also be a sincere servant. Mm-hmm. I think those two contradict.
Yeah. Well, that saying you said, I had heard it a little different. I do like what you said, though. I had heard humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less.
Yeah, that's a nice way of saying it too, yeah.
Because basically, you can have confidence without ego.
Yeah.
I can be okay with myself and have confidence in my skill set and be humble without ego.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have ever read Ego is the Enemy. Man, it's such a good book. Really, really good. Highly recommend it. And I took it and read it and then dissected it, and I pulled out little things to work with my kids or, just people I work with and things like that.
I'm saying humility, I think, is, again, it's one of those things that it's a character trait, right? And you can work on that if you're not great at it. But it's so important. If you want to be like a leader, you have to have humility, because I've seen over my life, in either professional career or within the church, whatever it may be, is like, if people will follow you if they know that you have their best interest at heart.
Yes,
and that you're going to recognize their talents and recognize, a lot of times at our sales meetings, we have to, in order to get our bonus check, it's a tradition in my company, you've got to make a little speech. And
then announce what's written on the check.
yeah, that they don't. But I would say like 90% of the people, which I've always really thought highly of, they'll think, I think my customers, the only reason I'm here is because my customers, my spouse, supporting me. And so realizing that, okay, it wasn't just me that did all this. There's this whole team of unseen people. And so when people realize that, again, they're willing to follow you. They're willing to work with you. Whereas if you just, it's all about me and, I'm the greatest, that turns people off real fast.
big time. Yeah. Yeah, I've always tried to work with my team where, as a leader, I think they need to know and understand that you always have their back, and that you are humble, realizing my success is built on their success. It isn't me doing all these things. So I think that's interesting. One of the things I've had to work on is the strongest people don't have to let you know that they're the strongest person. And I struggle with that sometimes just because of confidence or imposter syndrome or whatever you want to call it, where I want people to know that I've done all these different things because it builds credibility for me. But just being in a situation, providing guidance, things like that, people will understand. They'll know. You know when somebody's just running their mouth and when they're like, yeah, this person really knows what they're talking about. So I think being able to deliver those kind of messages or be that type of person with humility, I think it's huge. So why do you guys think admitting we're wrong is so difficult?
Yeah, that goes into vulnerability, which for me feeds humility. I think there's something very easy to follow. I mean, talking about being a leader, right? There's something very easy to follow in a person that is willing to accept their faults and be vulnerable about their mistakes. There's a humility in that.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it's the opposite of, well, who can I blame over here?
Right.
Whose fault is this? Right? I'll tell you a personal story. I didn't think I was going to get that much credit for this, but I ended up getting a lot of credit for this with my boss. This was about 4 years ago. We went to an outsourcer. We went to a MSP and we outsourced our service desk and our infrastructure stuff. This was about 4 years ago, and it sucked. The service was my decision. In fact, this was the first major decision I made in my position. I was like, I'm going to outsource the service desk and all this. And it was horrible. People were complaining about it all the time. And so I went into my boss's office and I was like, look, I've made a mistake. I will put my hand up and say, this was my decision. I made a mistake. But I have to in good conscience ask for permission to kind of unravel this thing. And I will lead it. I'll make sure it goes well. This is how I propose that it goes. But just to make it clear, it's mine. The mistake is mine. And I wasn't looking for any kudos on that. I was really heartbroken about it, right? I was embarrassed by it. I was frustrated by the fact that this decision didn't go off, and a little humiliated because costing us a lot of money, and we ended up unraveling it and going well. And a couple years later, I was having a conversation with my boss, and he's like, that moment there is one of the biggest moments for you in your current role. He goes, all the good things that you've done, fine, those are all good things, but the defining moment for me, this is what he said to me over drinks, the defining moment of your character for me was that moment.
Nice.
And I wasn't looking for that.
Sure.
And I'm not trying to tell the story to try and get credit, but I think it's important for people to understand that it takes a lot of courage to admit when you're wrong. But trying to cover up a mistake is significantly worse.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
I'll tell a story. I'm not trying to one-up you. Because it won't. But
is this when you got your big bonus check?
Yeah. Yeah. So this just happened last week at teen camp, right? So, and the story I think goes into how so many people aren't able to do that, are not able to admit when they're wrong. So we were playing, I was in charge of field games, so we were playing Capture the Flag, and I have a couple of young adult guys in their early 20s who are assisting and working with me. And anyway, the game was just, no one was scoring. It was a combination of there's too many dorms on the field wasn't big enough. And so at the last, I just start changing up rules, making stuff up. I mean, it just kind of gets chaotic, but it creates an environment where people are able to go capture the flag, score, and all that. And afterwards, I had one of the counselors come up to me and was like, hey, just FYI, there was a couple of campers. I think they were kind of like, very confused and they weren't comfortable with just, chaos ensuing. So I went up, the dorms were there, and I was like, hey guys, first I want to thank y'all for being patient with me. I know we were making up rules. I forgot half of them on the fly, but thank you for just being patient. And I know that wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but I appreciate that, and hope y'all had fun anyway. Anyway, I had one of the young guys on my team come up to me the next day. We were just walking, and he goes, hey, I really appreciate that you were able to basically just admit that you weren't right on that people were bothered by that, and that was okay. He goes, because I've never known an older person who's ever admitted they were wrong when they made a decision. I was like, really? Like, yeah. I mean, I was like taken back. He goes, whether it's a teacher or someone in church, or I've never known an older person who, even if it's clearly a wrong decision, would ever say, I think I messed up on that.
Yeah.
So he was just like, I appreciate that you were willing to say that.
Yeah.
So just to your point, like it's, I don't know, I think sometimes we talk about how, this is just common, but maybe it isn't in the world. And many people don't see that because it is extremely hard to say, yeah, I probably didn't do that as well as I could have.
Yep. Yeah. When you think about it, some of the reasons I struggle with imposter syndrome is I feel like the things that I do are not that hard to do, but it's a perfect example. I don't mind saying I'm sorry or I was wrong. I mean, yeah, if it's a bad situation, or whatever, it's not like it's easy, but I'll be like, yeah, I would rather admit, hey, I made a mistake. We need to fix this, need to change it, whatever.
And I guess what I learned too in that situation was, because to me it was like, this was just a silly game of capture the flag, right? I mean, nothing was lost. No one hurt themselves. It was just a silly moment. But for that young man, like, it was a big deal that to him, because he was like, almost it's restored my faith in humanity, kind of thing. And so we don't even, like, to your point, we don't even think it's that big of a deal. Yeah, I messed up on that. Sorry about that. But that could be a big deal to someone else to hear you say, hey, I know I messed up on that, and I'll do better next time.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever go through, like, in professional, the professional arena more? I would say this could also apply to marriage, but there would be far too many opportunities for this. Do you ever go through looking for opportunities to be wrong for that very reason?
I don't look for them because there's plenty of times.
That's why I said marriage is out, because there's too many of those. But like there was a season in my life where I was looking for those opportunities. It was like I want to be in a situation where I'm wrong for that very reason. Now you can call that a little bit manipulative or trying to fabricate it, but I felt like as a leader, it was always important to try and use those opportunities to do exactly that, right? Because I think at an officer level, at a C level, typically, there is a lot of ego, right? Talking about ego.
Yeah.
There is a lot of A-type personalities and not a lot of that more yielding, subservient kind of spirit. Mm-hmm. And I think it's needed, right? I think that's where it should be more so, right? And at the very, very senior leadership, I think that's where truly that kind of character should really be on display. And I'm very fortunate. I happen to work for a company that is very, very, humble in nature, right? It's a company that's one of our core values, and right at the top there's a lot of humility. And so but I know that's an anomaly, right? I think, looking at some of the other companies that I've worked either for or with, some horrible leadership where could never be wrong, even if they would never admit it.
Yeah. It's not fun.
It's not fun. It's a battle. It's a struggle every single day. I worked for a guy once that just, could never be wrong, would never let me get a word in. And so conversations with him were one-sided. It was him just talking. I would say nothing. And wasn't a fan of that job.
See, I'm trying to listen right now.
You're very attentive to my words. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting. And I'm not saying you're not sincere. That's what I was looking for, though, or I was thinking about earlier, is people can tell that young man could tell you were sincere about, hey, I didn't really realize the chaos ensued or whatever, so my bad. That's what I've always told people on my teams and things like that is, look, these decisions ultimately are mine. Like, I'm responsible for them, because same as you, if something happens in technology, there is nobody else except for you, and it all comes to you. Now, you'll give credit where credit's due, but you'll also take blame where blame is due. And that's what I try to tell people is, hey, you need to understand something. We're going to go a different way, but if I'm wrong, I will come back 6 months or a year and be like, you were right. We should have done it this way. I don't have a problem doing those kind of things. And I think people understand and they learn trust, and that it's a culture. And that's how you get people to want to work with you. And sometimes they can make more money, and I encourage them to go make more money other places. But you build a culture where people know they can trust you, that you have no ego. I am a very different C-level. Like, my friend will call me and he's like, I don't know of other C-level leadership that I'll call on lunch break and they're eating a bowl of cereal watching The Price is Right. I'm like, hey, that's what I do, though.
In his pajamas.
But there's so many individuals that like, oh, I can't be down there with you. It's like that Seinfeld where he was like, I'm a pharmacist. I can't be. I'm up here putting pills from these big bottles into little bottles. I can't talk to you guys. I can't stand that. So moving on then, thinking about some other areas, small choices always matter. So why do small compromises become big problems? And do you guys have an example? Not in your own life, but just, here's something where a small compromise can become a big problem.
I think it's almost kind of going back to what Stephen talked about. It's these pathways, right? Like, once you create that little bit of space, right? Water goes to the path of least resistance, right? Mm-hmm. Once you, there's just no little, because it opens up. You got a nice solid dam, but you start putting little pinholes in it. Eventually, there's going to be a flood, right? And so, I mean, I've seen that just in people's lives, whether it's friends at church or even in the professional environment. Of like, it's just like, oh, it's just that one little thing, right? I'll go out with this girl even though I know she's bad news, right?
Yeah.
But it's and things just, they spiral from that, or whatever it might be. I mean, it's just like, there's nothing, we convince ourselves that it's little to justify why we did it. But in reality, like, there isn't anything, when you go off the path, there's no such thing as little, middle, big. It's all bad.
Discipline is discipline.
Right.
You either have it or you don't. And if you're not willing to exercise it on the small things, how can you trust yourself to exercise it on the big things? And I think this is actually a pretty profound question, right? The first thing that popped into my mind was the book of Daniel. The very first story that they tell about Daniel and his friends, they don't put up a wall and refuse to compromise on anything that we would consider big. The very first example of them standing their ground is on something small, right? It's like, we're not going to eat that food. I was like, well, okay, why are you making such a big stand for something so small? The stand is the stand, right? Whether it's something small or whether it's something big. Mm-hmm. And I think that just speaks to character, right? Mm-hmm. You can't expect yourself, or you can't, espouse to have high character if there's holes in it all over the place, right? Character it's binary. It's either this or it's that. And if you aspire to have high character, well, why not be consistent with it?
Right.
Why compromise on the small? Because to Matthew's point, the little will devolve into something big, and it will happen like that.
Yep.
You won't even see it happen. It'll happen so quickly.
Yeah, character grows through consistent daily choices.
Yeah, and before you know it, you're down a path, and you're like, "How did I get here?"
Right. Yeah, the life you lead tomorrow is hidden inside those choices you're making today.
Yeah.
And then you're like, "How did I get here?" How did? Like, I can tell you guys so many crazy choices I've made and just paths that I've been on.
Please do tell.
Negative. This is a PG rated.
Well, and it's amazing too how they just add up to each other, right? It's something little.
Yeah.
And then the next time it's that same little thing, but with a little bit more on, right? And you're like, well, it was just okay. It's not that much of a difference.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, you're so far away from where you first started. But it was just all these little pieces.
Yeah.
That added up. That is a good point. That it was, because you think about Daniel and his friends. I mean, they had been shipped away hundreds of miles, thousands of miles, how far it was from Jerusalem to Babylon. I'm sure they saw many of their friends and family, in bad situations before they left. They could easily just be like, "We're going to survive, man. Let's not cause waves. Let's just lay low. Let's do what we're told." But yet they were like, "No, we don't eat that. So just give us some salad instead, and we'll be good." That's true character. In rough times, no, we're not just that little step they weren't willing to take.
And who knows if that small little test wasn't something from God to say, okay, well, let's now turn up the heat a little bit and a little bit more. Let's see how high this character is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know, Daniel's my favorite character of the Bible, right? Did you know, a factoid over here, there is nothing negative said about Daniel in the Bible. There's very few people in the Bible that you can say that about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is nothing negative said about Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel's a great book.
Yeah.
And instead, not only is there nothing negative said about it, but was it the archangel Gabriel that comes to Daniel and says, "Fear not, Daniel, for you are greatly beloved."
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Remember, his enemies said, "We're not going to find anything negative against him other than his religion, other than his God."
Yeah.
And that goes back to your question, right? If we're trying to be examples to people about, being Christians, well, we have to be consistent in that, just like Daniel was, right? They had given up. They're like, well, we can't touch this guy, right? Everything he does is beyond reproach. If now all of a sudden we're saying, okay, we're only going to be consistent on the big things because that's where character is formed. But yeah, we'll drop the F-bomb occasionally here or there. Or we'll drop this here occasionally or there. That dilutes the entire picture of character.
Yeah.
So those little things are almost as important as the big things,
Yeah.
if not more, because they grow.
When Victoria and I were counseling for marriage, this guy that I had a lot of respect for said something that was very profound. Simple, but very profound. He said, if you think about every day, you know, as you go through your marriage, when you have a disagreement or you have a fight or whatever, if you don't resolve it, which, you know, the scripture that talks about don't let the sun go down on your anger, he said it's like taking a little pebble and just throwing it in between you and your wife. And to your point, eventually those pebbles become a wall that is much more difficult to break down than just a few stones that you could just kick to the side and say, hey, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. That goes with anybody and everybody. Going back to the person you said at work, what they're doing right now is they're laying like massive stones between them and success where they're at. Now, maybe they don't care. Maybe they're like, I'll just move on. And, you know, it is what it is. But when you start to build something like that, all you're doing is putting a wedge or a wall between you and what you really want.
That's why I love that question. Will this matter in 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are so many little things in life, right, that will not matter in 5 years. But every single one of them could be that pebble.
Yeah.
Right? And so
we could say, will this matter tomorrow?
Yeah.
I mean, how many, we could have the wives on again. That could be dangerous. Betsy will tell you plenty of stories. But I mean, how many stupid things thinking back in my life that, you know, was I upset about that literally, it doesn't matter.
Tomorrow you're like, what was I on about?
Like, why did I care about that? So, I mean, to your point, yeah, I mean, you know, 5-year plan, that's great. But like a lot of things are just like, that doesn't matter, you know, doesn't matter tomorrow. Will I wake up and be like, oh, wow, this ruined my life?
So thinking about character then and choices and all of that, what little choices have made the biggest difference in your guys' lives? And while you're thinking about it, I will say this. I spoke about the book by, was it Robert Frost? No.
Over the weekend?
No. Who wrote The Two Roads Diverge?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, and I thought it was interesting because the point of the story is you have two paths that you can choose. But when he gets to the paths, he's like looking and you can't really see. Both paths are about the same, it says. And, you know, one is tread this way and their leaves are about as impacted on this way. And the whole idea of the story is basically saying, or the poem is, when you look back on life is when you realize that was a big decision I made. Because when you're making the decision, sometimes you don't realize just how big it is. Years later, you can be like, for instance, I went out one night and I have 6 kids now and been together almost 30 years. I had no idea that that was the decision. So thinking about choices or decisions that you make, can you guys think of little choices that have made the most difference in your life?
In hindsight, none of them were little choices.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to your point, in hindsight, there were massive choices.
Yeah.
The question is, how many of those choices do we miss every day that could potentially be massive choices later on? And you would never know, right? You would never know. Because I think about this all the time. Like, man, if I had not done that, like to your point, had I not gone to that place on that night,
right,
then my life would be, I'm speaking as if I'm you, would be completely different. Right? And so I think looking back in hindsight, they're massive choices, but there's no way of knowing, right? I think that's where faith is, you know, one of my favorite scripture, the one that I pray on a lot, is Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6, right? Yeah. Where basically talks about, you know, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths.
Yeah.
Right? That cannot be understated, like, because those choices happen all the time. Right. We're we're going to be served up these choices, and my human nature is going to choose the wrong thing a lot of times. But okay, if God is helping direct those paths, okay, well, maybe he'll give us another opportunity at the same choice later on. And so he'll keep giving us those opportunities until eventually, okay, he helps, guide us down the right path.
Right.
And I think that's ultimately faith, right? Is put me on a path,
right.
Keep me on the path, help me make the right decisions along the way so that I can get to where you want me to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think about that all the time, like the little moments in life that have been profound. Yeah. But again, you don't know them at the time.
Exactly. You don't. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, there's like little things, Betsy was a school teacher, and one of her moms was a pharmaceutical rep, and I just was a few years out of college and was just done with the job that I had and wanted to get in, and she was like, "Yeah, tell your husband to go to this lunch, that some randomly we go to," and I was like, "Well, this is weird," but I showed up randomly at this lunch, right, a little small moment, and gave him a resume and left, and resume made its trickled its way with obviously God's help through different places. And now I've been with the company 24 years, right? Yeah. I mean, so you can say if I didn't go to that lunch, but I mean, to me, it's all the little decisions. I think, like Stephen was saying, once you give and it sounds trite, I know it does, but once you basically say, you know what, I'm going to follow God, I'm going to be a disciple of Jesus Christ, then there's where your character comes from. You immediately have a light that you're looking at. I don't always behave this way, but I know I'm supposed to have love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. I know all these things, so I'm going to strive for that, and I'm going to trust that God is going to lead my life and give me the opportunities to make good or bad decisions, but be patient with me, learn from the bad, hopefully do more good. But to me, it just comes down to you have to make that decision first, and then trust that God is leading you through these little moments. Mm-hmm. And that's how how I've lived my life, and how I think of what could have been or would have been. But it was like, no, God had direction. I mean, we've talked about you met Victoria one night on a Friday night, never did that before in your life. Mm-hmm. Literally a month before I asked Betsy out, I made a decision like, I'm never asking someone out who doesn't believe the same way, or that I don't meet at church. Betsy didn't go to my church. Yeah, found out she was available, asked her out. Right. Yeah. Obviously, God had a different plan than my mind had, mm-hmm. but it's all little moments. But I believe God has directed him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about for me, meeting Victoria, but also I was really sick. And I was traveling a lot for this job that I had. I flew back from St. Louis, and then I had to go to another customer site in Hutchinson, Kansas, which is 45 minutes, an hour away, which to me in Kansas at the time, that was like going 10-hour drive. It was ridiculous. And so I had interviewed for this other job because I wanted to leave this consulting firm that I was at because I wanted to slow down. But I thought it was interesting. They interviewed me the first time, and they interviewed me for the wrong job. And so then they were like, well, you really need to talk to this one guy. He's the CIO from Dallas. And I was like, okay. So I agreed to meet. Well, then they called me because weather was getting bad. And they were like, hey, he wants to meet earlier. Can you meet him at the airport? I'm like, well, I'm on my way back. I suppose I can. I was going to head back home because I just wasn't feeling good at all. So I called Victoria, and I was like, hey, they asked me to move this meeting up. So I think I'm just going to come home. I just didn't get a good feel from this company the last time. And I'll never forget it because basically there's driving down a highway, and you can go this way to go to the meeting, or you can go this way to go home. And I get to the road, and I'm approaching it, and I call her, and I'm like, hey, I'm just going to go. It's fine. I'll go see what this guy has to say. I spent 10 years working with him. One of the greatest choices I've made in my life. Helped me immensely. I got to work in private equity. We did merger and acquisitions. I mean, it was just so much benefit to me growing in my career and everything. At the time, I didn't think it was any big choice. I was like, yeah, whatever. So
I have a very, very similar story. My current employer, I was working for a dairy processor in 2017, something like that. Mm-hmm. It was going nowhere fast. Like it was the largest dairy processor in the country, like a $15 billion company when I started. No fault of mine, ended up ultimately filing for bankruptcy. Just after I had left. But anyway, it was writing
but no fault of yours.
No fault of mine.
He deleted some stuff.
I had nothing to do with it. But no, I mean, it was very clear. Like, it's not a good sign when they start removing like the coffee and the tea and the utensils from the break rooms because you can save some money as a company. Never a good thing. Anyway, so my boss and I were actually looking. And so my boss and I at the time, we had a great relationship. And so he knew I was looking. I knew he was looking. He said to me, he's like, Stephen, if you ever need to take an interview, just put eye doctor on your calendar and I'll know. I'm like, and he goes, I'll do the same. So that's the kind of relationship we had. Anyway, we traveled to India one time together. And this was one of the last trips I took with them. And given the time change, we had just gotten there and I was sitting in a bar with him at India. We had just gotten there, so we went and had a beer. Sitting in a bar, got a LinkedIn notice from some like discreet recruiter. And when you're looking, you read all of those, right? When you're not looking, you don't read any of them. But some random job, like, hey, we're scouting for X, Y, and Z job. So I pulled it up and I showed it to my boss. I was like, hey, what do you think of this? And he's like, yeah, you could do that. But it was one of those confidential searches where they didn't list the company name. So that kind of turned me off a little bit. I was like, I'm not really interested in this. If you're not willing to tell me the name, like, so I wrote the lady. I was like, look, interested. I think I can do the job. I'd like to learn more. She goes, okay, well, can you get on a phone call tomorrow at XYZ time? Now she's talking as if she's in Dallas time.
Right.
And so I quickly did the mental calculation. I was like, that's like 3 a.m. for me here where I was in India. And I was like, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. So I was like, fine, I'll be on it. But, in my mind, I was like, maybe I won't. And the same thing, right? Like, I remember going to bed that night before thinking, I don't know if I'm going to get up for this thing. Like, I don't really know anything about it.
Yeah.
And I think I set my alarm and was like, yeah, I'll take it. Woke up and then the rest is history. Been there for 7 years. But the same thing, right? Like, also I was like, maybe I will, maybe I won't.
Yeah.
I could have just as easily taken the other road,
right,
to your point, right?
Yep.
And so it just shows, like, I don't know what the lesson is, like for people listening, right? I don't know what the lesson is. Like, treat every moment as an opportunity, right? To either shape character or to do something. And maybe the lesson is, if you say you're going to do something,
do it. Yeah.
If you say you're going to be at the meeting, be there. If you say you're going to be on that phone call, be there.
Yeah.
And I've always said it, even whenever, I'll still do that to this day. Like, I'm not actively looking, but like I'll get messages, from different, recruiters and stuff. I'll always take a call. Like, there is no harm in talking to somebody because you just never know what may come from it.
Yeah.
So, I would throw that out there too. Is like, even if you're like, this may not work, it's just a phone conversation. It's just a conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get something out of it. Maybe you won't. But if you don't take it, you'll definitely get nothing out of it.
Agreed.
I encourage people to, even if you're not looking, to interview, because that is an art and it's a skill and can go blunt very quickly.
I love to interview.
I do too. I mean, I haven't in a while, but I think it's very, very helpful just to kind of go through the mechanics, right? Mm-hmm. Be put on the spot, be interrogated, almost feel like a deposition in some cases. What do you do? And so I think that's something you got to get comfortable with, right? You got to understand what are the questions people are asking, what are your responses to those questions. Give yourself the opportunity to give some forethought to the kinds of questions that people are asking these days. And so keep yourself sharp in that. Even if you're not looking, don't tell the people who are interviewing you that you're just doing this for the reps.
Yeah.
That's probably not a good idea. But I mean, I think it's a good muscle to keep warm.
Mm-hmm. I like to go into interviews and just be like, are you serious? That's what you're asking? They're like, oh, no.
How do you feel about Columbus Day?
Yeah.
That's a good one to ask.
So what do our families learn by watching us? You being fathers.
Yeah. it's amazing how much they will emulate and copy. There's a lot of things about me that is similar to my dad, from emotions and stuff like that. And I've seen that like in my own kids, and some of it I'm like, all right, I don't think they're as bad as I was. So we're making some progress here. But just my kids are 20 and 16, so they learn everything from you.
Yep.
Wrong or right, they learn what the model of acceptance is, or a model of what is acceptable behavior. Wrong or right, especially younger kids who are very what's the word, malleable, impressionable, formative. I mean, I'll just speak about my 4-year-old and my 8-year-old, right? If my 4-year-old and 8-year-old see me acting and speaking in a certain way, they're gonna look at that as, oh, that's acceptable behavior.
Yes.
Yeah.
And therefore, because dad's doing it, I can do it. For wrong or right. And I think that's the caution of our actions and our words is there are young, impressionable minds watching us to try and understand how should I be behaving in life.
Yep. One of the things that I do, because I think about the atmosphere that we create around us, like what are we creating for our kids? What do they see? The thing is with what I have learned as a father of 6 with a 9-year break, I'm a different father with the younger 3 than I am with the older. And what I have tried to avoid is I'm not perfect, and they know it. And they'll see it in you immediately, just like that kid did. He was like, that is cool that you're willing to admit that you're wrong. I lose my temper. I'm a human being. I make all kinds of mistakes. What I do with my kids is I go and sit with them when I make a mistake. And I'm like, hey, I shouldn't have said that. Hey, I shouldn't have done that. I didn't react right. And then they know that's okay. It doesn't mean I have to be perfect.
But they're also learning that as a good behavior, right?
Exactly. Because it's an atmosphere that you have to build around them. Otherwise, nobody wants to be around somebody who you think is perfect.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not. I mean, it's fine to be around people that are really awesome people, but you can't really, I can't confide in them. Right. I want our kids and our older kids now, they come to us. They talk to us about struggles that they have. I don't feel like they lie. I mean, probably they do a little bit. I don't know, but I think you have to build that type of character in them. And it's seen in those moments where you make a mistake and you talk to them about it and you say, hey, I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have said it, all of that. So I just know, cause kids they're always watching us, and you're very right. They are very formidable years and all of that. But I think if in that time as well, the atmosphere that you're developing is one of, hey, I can make mistakes. It's okay to make a mistake. Doesn't mean you just go and do it.
Right.
But I think that's...
but you want them, like, if they're going to make mistakes, where better to make it than at home? Yep. I'd much rather my kids make mistakes at home. And this is the thing that I am not perfect at. In fact, far from it. I'm really trying to work on it is when my kids do make mistakes, be very gentle with them.
Yeah.
So it's okay, buddy. I mean, not a big deal. Yeah. I remember when I first became a dad, little mistakes, I would like lose it. Like, what are you doing? And then I thought to myself, well, hang on, what am I really teaching him? Am I teaching him that writing on the wall is not a good behavior? Or am I teaching him to be scared of making mistakes?
Right.
Because I can handle writing on a wall, but what I can't handle, or what would be very difficult for me to handle, is for him to be scared of making a mistake around me. Mm-hmm. I would hate that. And so I remember the one time Grayson, this was during COVID. This was just as COVID hit. Grayson was 3 years old. And I was on a phone call, as we all are, right, on Zoom calls or whatever. And Veronica was in her meeting, and we had a 3-year-old at home and no schools. And so Veronica was like, hey, it's your turn to watch Grayson. I've got to go take a call. I'm like, yeah, fine. And so I was watching him. Then I had to jump on a call, and so I kind of forgot about him. So he wasn't really being supervised. And next thing I know, I hear this just this sound, like, tsh, something hitting the ground. Like, tsh. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. It just sounds weird. Well, anyway, so Veronica and I both get off our calls at the same time. And like our house has got like, in the upstairs section, there's like a little, like a area where you can kind of see downstairs. I forget what you call it, like an overlook area, whatever it is. And anyway, so I'll walk into the area that's the downstairs area. And Veronica is arriving upstairs at the same time that I'm arriving at that downstairs area. And our reaction is the same. Grayson, what have you done? On the floor downstairs, I realize now what that throwing sound was. He had taken oil-based paint. Like not paint, but oil-based, like those pastels. It's like little, like art crayons, whatever it was. And he was just throwing them over the little balcony area, and it was just hitting the ground and like exploding. So there's these like little explosions of oil-based crayons everywhere. That's not even the bad part. Veronica gets upstairs and she realizes what she was doing with these things before he decided to throw them. And he had written with this oil-based all over the walls, all over the carpets, everywhere.
I'm surprised he's still alive.
I was so mad. And like I was like, Grayson, what did you do? And looking back on it, I was like, little guy didn't know what he was doing. Like he was unsupervised, he was bored.
Yeah.
But that talk about a little moment that has shaped character for me.
Yeah.
That was a little moment in my life where I was like, I'm going to be a better dad in this way. I'm going to be more forgiving, more tolerant, and less punitive for things where the intention wasn't an adult type intention. It's a 3-year-old acting like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Right. And to try and put myself into a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old shoes, as hard as that is.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going with that, but
your greatest leadership may be around the dinner table. It really, when we think about shaping young minds and all of that. So what do you hope people remember about you? That I'm so good looking.
I mean, I think this is cliche, and I think we would all say the same thing, right? At the end of the day, I would want to be remembered as someone who chased God, who sought God, who looked for Him, who did everything that he could to follow His laws, His commands, His example. I mean, that's cliche, but I would be very, very happy with my life if I died broke, but that was the crowning achievement of my life.
Yeah.
I'd be very happy with that.
I read a book one time, and it said one of the things you should do, kind of this sounded morbid at the time, but it really does make sense, is write your own obituary. Don't share it with anybody.
That is the definition of morbid right there.
But write your own obituary, because in obituaries, man, the person can be a lying, stealing thief, whatever, and they'll still be like, "Oh, Ricky, he was full of life." And so I did it one time, and I just wrote. And then basically what you do is you read that, and you say, these are the kind of characteristics.
But you've got to be honest.
Yeah, what I want them to remember me as.
Well, wait, so did you have to write your own...
of what you would want them to say about you, not what you really are.
I feel like that would be almost more powerful, is to write it first about what you are.
Very true. Yeah.
Because that is ultimately, unless you change something, that is what your legacy is.
That's true.
And then I feel like if you read that, if you can be brutally honest with yourself, and write that down first, I feel like that would be very sobering.
Yeah. It was
unless you're Matthew. Matthew would be like, "I'm amazing, the best person ever."
Yeah,
he's a great guy.
So
would you write it in third person as well?
So I think another question then to think about is, who has helped shape your character? I'm sure you guys will say your dads, but do you feel there's other people that have?
For sure, dads. Yeah, Veronica, kids, even.
Yeah.
It's the people closest to you that shape your character.
Yeah.
I can very honestly say, I don't think a lot of strangers have shaped my character, have helped shape my character.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I think parents and Betsy.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been married 30 years, right? So I lived with my parents for like 20. So, I mean, she's had 10 years on them of trying to keep me in line.
I was at the golf course the other day with Caleb, my nephew, and young kid, right? Got his whole life ahead of him, right? Just what it would be like to be at that age again. But anyway, I went to go play golf with him, and Veronica, it was near where I live, and so Veronica texted me. She's like, "Hey, where are you? I'm gonna come by and just say hi." And so it happened to be where, like, the hole that we were on was right adjacent to the road, and so Veronica came by with the kids, and she said hi, and it was really sweet, right? I came out and I said to Caleb, I was like, "Caleb, let me give you one piece of advice: marry a good woman, because your life will be one way with a good woman, and it will be something completely different with the wrong woman." And for young men, that is aside from choosing a path that follows God, the biggest decision that you will make that will have the deepest and broadest impact will be the person that you choose to marry.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same for men or women. Young men, young women.
Yeah, no, for sure. Same for both.
But understanding, saying something like that. Yep, absolutely. It's very true. It will really truly make or break you. It can. And a lot of times too is a marriage can work if the two people want it to.
Yeah, I believe that.
It's if they just don't want to, or they just lose heart. Or
you look at these arranged marriages.
Yeah.
Billions of people around the world, billions of people that are alive today are in arranged, I don't know if it's billions, but it's probably a billion.
Yeah.
Are in arranged marriages that are happy. Especially on the subcontinent, like the Indian subcontinent. One of my favorite questions is when I speak to people from that area and they're married, I'll ask them, are you in a love marriage or an arranged marriage? And 9 out of 10 are in arranged marriage. And I want to know the story. Like, tell me how it happened, tell me how it worked, and how long have you been married? And all of them are like, yeah, well, my parents arranged it and kind of got us in touch. And next thing you know, we got married 2 weeks later. And I was like, that is so bizarre. But to your point, like, there is an element of commitment.
Yeah.
That if both people have that, like, I'm committed to this union, then you will do everything in your power to make that thing work.
Yep.
Well, and plus, as a parent, you're not going to choose. We're just sitting here talking about.
Yeah.
Which I agree with. Like, the two decisions. Number one, am I going to follow God and have a relationship with Him? And then who am I going to marry? I think a lot of people get confused. Like, well, what's my career? What's that? Like, if those things aren't in line, in my opinion, it doesn't matter if you're making $3 million a year, your life's gonna be miserable.
Yeah.
Right. And you can make, $30,000 a year. But if you have those other two things, you can be happy, and people are. But the arranged marriages, as a parent, you're going to try to find the best choice out there. Right. You're not going to just settle for your son or your daughter. Well, this person is, good, but they've got, several things I don't like, but that's good enough.
Right.
You're going to find, you're going to search far and wide for that person that has great character and is loving,
comes from a good family,
and all those things. So, yeah. I mean, it would make sense why arranged marriages over time work, as long as the two people are willing to, try.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about just careers, and a lot of times we maybe are focused on what we accomplish in life. When you look back, what are people going to remember? And they're not going to remember what you accomplished. They're going to remember how you made them feel. And I think that's, with our kids, with our friends, our wives, husbands, whatever, that's what is really, really important, is how you treat other people. And I think that's why so many marriages fail, is because people focus on what you're doing, not what I can control, and what do I need to change, and how do I need to, and it's the same thing in work, and I deserve this. Yeah.
Can I say one thing which you kind of just made, you provoked this thought in me? Mm-hmm. Character, we talk about death, and we talk about, when you die, it's all kind of gone, and ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And mm-hmm. we all believe that, Christ will return, there will be a resurrection, and those things. Mm-hmm. Character is the one thing that you will take with you. Mm-hmm. Everything else in this life is futile and material, but character is the one thing that will move with you
when you're resurrected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that's why the importance of establishing and building a good character now is not just for the next 10 years, 20 years, or even this lifetime. It is something that will ultimately, I mean, we will believe this, will see you into eternity.
Mm-hmm.
So what is more valuable than character?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm probably going to try to throw a few things in my coffin, but it's just about it other than that. But no, I agree. It's interesting to think about. So anything else to add?
No, like every time it's a good topic. It gives me a lot of time to pause and just think through these things.
Yeah. One of the challenges I would have between now and the next episode would be just thinking about every day, am I becoming the person that I should, that I would want to be?
I'm going to go write my obituary.
Do the both of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. That's a good idea. Yep.
I have this thing on my wall in the gym that says, here's what it is, right? Have you ever seen one of those things, like when you think about the time that you have left in life, it often becomes like an infinite loop, right? You think through, I've got so much time. And so I bought this thing, years ago, I found it on Instagram or whatever it was. And the title is It's Now or Never. So I have it in the gym. And the whole thing is meant to show how finite our time is.
Yeah.
And it's measured in, so that you can order it. You can go and order one of these things where basically it has the decades.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, it has the decades of your life listed. So basically you key in when you were born, you key in your age, and then what it does is it assumes a lifespan of like 80 years, something like that. And then what it has is it lists the decades of your life in blocks, decade 1, decade 2, and then it colors in all the decades
I don't know if I want
that
to see
have
that.
passed, and it leaves uncolored the decades that are, sorry, that's not decades, it's years. So there's like 80 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're my age, 46, you very quickly see that you're more than halfway there.
Yeah.
Nothing inspires a sense of urgency more than something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's now or never.
It also,
That just sounds like that makes me sad.
because I'm thinking about it,
Makes you
I'm like,
grind on that treadmill.
I only have 29 years left if I only live to 80. I'm going for 100.
You should do it. Do you do like annual physicals and yeah?
I did this year, yeah.
You did?
I hadn't for quite some time. My watch told me my fitness age is 20, so I'm like, I'm sure I'm
Fine,
good.
I'm 11 till 140.
I can believe this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks
Yeah,
for joining.
likewise.
Yep.
Good talk.
Yeah, good talk. Yeah. See y'all next time.
Later.
Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciated Matthew and Stephen being a part of this conversation. We're looking forward to many more episodes. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and if you have questions, you can submit them at info@karposlifepodcast.com. We'll see you next month.